You guys hear me? you guys hear me on the video? Can anybody hear me on the video?
Finance and Personnel Committee meeting to order for Monday, July 11th at 6:45 PM. Roll call, Yates is present, Summers,
Here.
Jensen,
Here.
Paquette is absent. Discussion and possible recommendation to the village board on payment of the bills.
A lot of routine stuff. One thing is CTW did start sending us bills for the land in the states well, chlorine treatment, things like that. So that has, there's an extra bill in there for that.
See, we had a payment for the fire services.
Yep,
in here as well.
fire, second quarter, third quarter, second quarter came through.
It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So we've got payment moving on the WEX cards for the
Yep,
police
police department.
department.
And all the other stuff was pretty nice. Normally follows Sussex.
Well, then hard gas is getting expensive too. isn't it?
Yeah, as the price goes
$5
up.
a gallon.
I know,
And it's,
makes a difference. So,
he's one of the cheapest they've seen around.
Did anybody else have anything on here they had any questions about? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to recommend payment of the bills.
Second.
Yeah, or I'll make the motion. Motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action on ARPA funds. So I'm kind of bouncing some emails back and forth with the ARPA committee to try to set up a day and time where we can get together and review the two applications that we received. One for a business and one for a personal. Kevin, you're up here. And people, a lot of people on vacations apparently here in July, so we're having a little trouble getting that nailed down, but we will be hopefully meeting sometime next week and get those nailed down. Then we will have to decide what to do and how to use the remaining funding that we have after we award any possible grants. So that's the update I have for you on that. And then would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Hector.
Why'd you grab the door?
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. We have a second, motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
But I did. think it was something to check it.
Oh.
Yep.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this regular village board meeting to order July 11th at 7 PM.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Johnson. Here. Martin. Here. Ellis.
Here.
McCat.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Summers.
Here.
Jakes.
Here.
All present.
Statement of public notice,
Has been posted.
discussion and possible action on a reading correction and approval of the minutes from the village board meeting from 6/13/2022.
Take a motion to accept the approval of the minutes from 6/13/22.
Second.
I have a correction on that. There was a comment by a citizen wondering about what our park employees were doing in a golf cart in Whispering Ridge. That was not village employees. Apparently, that was Waukesha County Park and Rec. My only comment. We have a motion and second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Committee reports, finance personnel.
As reported in the finance committee meeting, the ARPA committee will be getting together sometime next week at a yet to be determined date and time to review the 2 grant applications that we received and settle on either a reward amount or not. And that is all I have for you.
Thank you, Patrick. Legislative,
Nothing at this time.
thank you, Steve. Park and Rec beautification.
Just that we replaced a few of the swings up at the village park because one of them had been cut in half. So those have been replaced and taken care of. And the infant swing was also replaced.
Thanks, Kelly. Public safety. Thank you, Kevin. Public Works recycling.
Yeah, we had one complaint about the last week's pickup with GFL. Apparently, they had a truck arm malfunction and garbage cans got dropped and garbage was spread all over town line road. The bids for resurfacing the village hall parking lot and to repair the garage have come in, and we're looking at that. The trees are coming down, cut and go is out to give estimates on cutting down the cottonwoods and the trees that have been struck by lightning. And that should be completed by the middle to the end of this month. Somebody, somehow, some way, shape or form, pulled the interlock out of the building up at the Custer Road lift station. And that we just found out about it today. The interior of the lock is completely gone. We still can't open the door, so that's one thing we've got to get into to see if there was anything missing. But someone did it. No one knows who, not the contractor, not the people at PTS that are putting in the pumps and things. Nobody knows who did it, but it's gone. We'll work on it.
Was it vandalized?
At this point, we don't know.
But the door wasn't vandalized or? the
No.
lock? Did you have to have a special key to pull that middle?
Yep.
lock up? Okay.
So somebody's got the key and somebody pulled it. Oh, we don't know. That's all I got.
Are we just gonna let the contractor handle that, or? do we-
That's his responsibility.
Okay,
Until it's signed over to us and we accept it, it's all his.
Thank you, Ron. Corey,
Nothing at this time.
thank you, Amy. Department reports, clerk's office.
There's an election coming up on August 9th. Polls will be open from 7 AM to 8 PM. In-person absentee voting will start July 26th in the clerk's office. We're working on getting the utility bills. They will hopefully go out by the end of this week. Also working on the SMS system. I wanted to send out a test message today, but I did not get that far, so hopefully you'll be seeing something on that soon. That's all I got.
Just as another side note, Brenda was to another educational conference to do with the updates in elections, the changes that John Macy put on. Thank you, Brenda. Police report.
The report was distributed, should be on the website as far as the monthly activity crime. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Citizen comments. This is meant for public comments on any subject without any discussion by Board of Trustee members or action, except for possible referral to a governmental body or village agent, except as otherwise allowed by motion of the board. Citizen comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, although written comments of any length may be submitted prior to the meeting with the village clerk. Please direct your comments to the board. No disruptive behavior will be allowed. Do we have any citizen comments? Mary?
Couple of things. One has to do with the restoration. Shoot. I lost it. Whoops, hang on. Patrick, I don't know what to say. There's been photos sent a few times, phone calls made to Isaac. You guys come out, do walkthroughs, come back, maybe fix 1 or 2 things, then I hear nothing. So I recently sent you pictures and I got back. I have a business to run and a life of my own, as well as trying to deal with emails, calls, and meetings every week for village matters. Well, maybe you have too much on your plate, because you said you're not always going to be able to respond in a few hours or even a few days. Do you treat your customers that way in your business? Like you don't respond back for days? I mean, I don't expect resolution, but I expect a response. You did indicate on here that Strand presented an idea to you and to Don, and that you were gonna come out and walk the property again and take a look, and there should be something soon. So I don't know what soon means. Soon could be days, could be months. I don't know what soon means. You'll have to clarify that. And then we still have a problem with cars whizzing through to avoid the stoplight on Lannon Road and Main Street. We have one vehicle that lives in the neighborhood on the corner of Lake Street and Hemlock. And I'd like to go into what goes on in that house, but that's something I can't prove. But that car comes by at different hours. Yesterday, we went to Whitland's to get gas. That car whizzed past Whitland's, parked on the corner of the mobile park, and it's knocking on somebody's door. They go away for like 10-15 minutes. There's cars that come to that house. They're there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'm gonna say it's suspected drugs going on. They now have 8 to 10 people living in that house. I don't know how many they're supposed to have, they're renters. They just 6:25 tonight. They came whizzing past. Down Hemlock, around the corner to go to the house on the corner where they live. They're driving a good 40 miles an hour. My husband said he's seen them go faster than that. All hours of the day, sometimes late at night. The other day, a UPS driver came flying fast, going down Hemlock, went around the corner and within less than 5 minutes, the turn must have dropped off what he had and came back flying down Hemlock again. I hollered at him. He had to be doing at least 40 miles an hour. There was some talk about possible removable speed bumps or the rumble strips or something, and every time it gets brought up and then nothing. So I don't know if something is actually being in the works about it or not, but it is a problem. And I've got to reiterate again that it is a problem.
Thank you, Mary. Kathy,
Hi, I just want to reiterate about what Mary was saying about the restoration.
name and address, please.
Kathy Flitch, 20642 West Forest View Drive. I'm having similar problems with my driveway and my yard as well. My neighbors' driveways were all redone. They look immaculate. Mine looks like cobbled crap. And I really want something done about it sooner rather than later. With the weather changing in the winter, I can see my snowblower tearing up or catching on the lip of the bridge. I don't want somebody flying on my property. My lawn is atrocious. It's all filling in with weeds that were not there before. When I bought that house, we had to have a well put in. We had it professionally landscaped. It looks like crap. And again, I come home from work, I'm the one sending emails, and all my neighbors have all their little patches all redone. Not mine, they just drive right by.
Mine is-
Yeah, so I'm just kind of, I know Don, you've been talking with me, Patrick, you spoke with me this evening. But when you send emails and you send things, you don't hear things when you come home from work and the neighbor's yard looks different than yours, you get a little frustrated. I was told by my neighbor across the street, quote, "You have to complain." Well, I'm sending emails, I'm trying to be polite, I don't know which more I can do. I will seed the lawn and send you the bill, if that's what you want. He told me he sits out there every day and waters it, and I said, so you're watering grass that they took out with water that you have to pay for because they took away your well. Is that how this works? I'm keeping my well, and I'm not gonna water grass that I shouldn't have to water. And I shouldn't have to seed a lawn that I shouldn't have to deal with. I didn't do any of this. My well is perfectly fine. So I'm stuck with this disaster, and I'm not gonna tolerate it anymore. I have been nice. I have said to Isaac, I will tolerate the patch job, and I come home and the patch job, which I'm not even aware of, he told me he was gonna be there on a Friday while I was at work. He never showed. I come home and my husband goes, what the hell is this? And I look and it's cobbled up, like somebody just took cold patch and dumped it across the crack and called it done. Smooth it out. Why does mine look like crap? My neighbor's entire end was torn out, times 4 or 3. I had to look down the street, his and his. He goes, you weren't home, you didn't see it. Yeah, I wasn't home. So the next time they come, I'm gonna be home and I'm gonna watch them rip it out and put it back in, because it doesn't look the way it did when I first bought my home, and I want it to look the way it did. And the apron is smaller. They keep telling me it's within the limits. Well, I don't care. My apron was here, my apron is now here, but it's within your limits. No, I want it where it was before. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Do we have any more comments? Yes, Dan.
I just, Jan Schmidt, 203 West Griswold. The meetings from the last month, there is an error. Reading through them, it says that there was poop on the dog park area. It should be poop on baseball.
Thank you, Dan. Do we have any more citizen comments? Any more comments? Discussion and possible action on approval of operators license applications.
I believe Dan has run all the backgrounds on those, and so these are just ones that were turned in late.
Make a motion to approve the operator licenses.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action to hire a new part-time officer for the police department.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Darren Picard, 25 years in Milwaukee PD, 17 years in the Air Force. In Milwaukee PD, he was an instructor, still is an instructor at 8 different disciplines. He's an EMT, he was on a major incident response team. So both very big responsibilities. And he's a graduate of Leadership Includes Organizations, which is something we need here. I think he'd make a great addition to the department, so I would recommend it be hired.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Welcome to Landon, officer.
Thank you, appreciate it.
We'll be able to handle going from Milwaukee to here.
Definitely.
Thank you, sir. Discussion and possible action on approval of Landon's awareness walk for hope and healing. We have Liz here. She's going to go over the information that she sent out.
Did everybody have a chance to read what I said? Because I tried to give as much information as we could. Steve Paley from Cedar Smith. So, do you want to read what I submitted, or would that be redundant?
I just have a question, I guess.
Okay, sure.
So on the stuff you sent out the last email, it says it's at Schneider, it's at the open air pavilion.
I just didn't know the exact wording. It would be the
So is
open
it the-
air pavilion.
But it's not the Lions building, is what you've been saying.
No, well, that's what we originally thought, and then by talking with the Lions Club, we thought it'd be better to be in the pavilion due to the weather. We don't know what kind of weather we'll have, and then all the picnic tables are already in that area, and the porta potties are all right there.
And are the Lions gonna cook in their shelter and then bring it over?
That's what they're thinking. They're just doing Black Friday, that's all. They said it'd be super simple.
And did you rent the pavilion?
I didn't know that that was a step there.
There is one that will be in there. That just was, we came up with that last Thursday because the big issue, the biggest holdup was getting the approval for Waukesha County, which was not done before the June meeting. So we're kind of waiting to get that because without it, it would have been almost impossible to do this walk. And this is the first time Liz or anybody's trying to do this. So trying to get everything in order, and instead of coming to the board 3 or 4 times, my thought on that is because this is a benefit to our entire community and the surrounding area. I didn't want to waste a lot of time coming here 3 or 4 times. I wanted to wait till it was pretty much wrapped up, which has been quite the challenge. So Liz is here this week. The biggest hurdle was getting the approval from the Parks Department.
I think we probably should have went about this a different way. I know you just mentioned, Don, that you were waiting for approval from Waukesha County, but and granted, you know, having them come 3 or 4 times, changes or additions would be fine, but I really think the general outline, the general route, all this stuff should have been done months ago. When we asked for it, we tabled it. Now we're here a month before this. And if the board were to say no, the board would be looked upon as if it was our fault that this event didn't happen because of the poor planning on this. I think this should have been done a long time ago, should have been put together and presented to the board, at least for us to give an initial approval. And then if there was other items that get ironed out between then and now, it would have been such a big deal. But I think this was just really kind of, you know, thrown at us at the last minute. We've been asking for information for a long time.
Could I just comment on that? From
Yes.
what I remember when I was at that meeting, I came on considering beautification for the village of land, and that was like the main project, and then this was secondary on the agenda. And from what I understood, when people like looked around on the board, they said, is there a permit required to use the park? From what I understand, I thought they says no, but probably Waukesha County is. So And that we would work out, it was mentioned about working out the plan with the police department. And one other thing came to mind. Oh, and that we would be assigned somebody from the Parks Committee. So, and they said, okay, Kelly Jensen would be assigned. So I thought we were just working all that out, because we were in contact all along.
She has been in contact with Belle, she has been in contact with myself, who she was assigned to talk to for the parks.
And I thought the police chief would confirm all that too. So you guys know, we've been talking about the route, what would be the safest with people, staying on the pavement. And me and him have been going back and forth, and that's where I stood on it. So I'm sorry that I misunderstood. Coming back one more time or writing to everybody, I surely would have. Because the LBA is organizing this, and we've been doing so much behind the scenes, contacting groups, and the main two sponsor groups, NAMI and the Center for Suicide Awareness, Elevate in Jackson. They're all like really reputable companies, and we've got really good speakers on all subjects. And I wanted to say too, on all of these events, we always welcome anybody from the community or the residents to help out. We can't be judgmental. So we try to work together, and that's what we hope that you guys would cross too.
And there is a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah,
Because none of us have done this before. It's a major undertaking, more so than what we had probably thought in the beginning. They have worked really hard to try and put this together and to stay in touch with the police chief, with myself.
Same problem occurred with the Easter Bunny. Inadequate knowledge and forethought. That's the same thing that happened here.
That was
Yes.
gonna lead me to my point where I think, unfortunately, we don't have, I don't think it's for a lack of people inquiring or trying to understand it better. I think it's that we just don't have a clearly defined process for how this stuff should work. And that I think, Brenda could maybe reach out to her clerk community and see if there's some other communities that maybe have a checklist or a form that gets filled out for events like this, so that we don't have these miscommunications or gaps in communication.
Well, and the
And
thing
it-
about it is Wannon as a village, we haven't done a lot of this as a whole.
Right.
So it's something that.
So
we do
now's
need
a
to
great
put together
time to
something.
establish a process.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
And outline some of these types of things. So in the future, we don't put people in the same position. So is that something that you think somebody might be able to help you with, Brenda?
And I said a couple more questions, sorry.
Okay, sure.
So the benefits, who it benefits? I've seen that it benefits organizations, like all the proceeds go to benefit organizations. But then I saw you had said that it benefits the run itself.
I might say it one way.
So where do the proceeds go?
All proceeds will be dispersed to the two sponsors. And as people come and say there's Elevate, and they have a resource table, if somebody wants to make a donation directly to them, they would make that. But any money that we fund would be to supply a free event T-shirt, which is very uncommon to the first 100 registered people 13 years and up. That's very uncommon. And what was I going to say? All of it will be dispersed to those groups, and refreshments, and what else do?
I'd like to add too that it benefits the community is raising awareness to the causes that the benefit is for, plain and simple.
And then they said there was 2 speakers too. Who are those speakers?
Okay, Amanda Ray Martin is. one
They're from
of
the
them.
organizations.
Yes, they are from those organizations.
That's-
Yes, they are. I never had met them before, and they're very accomplished speakers with some connection to those issues. And when the history event took place at the park, did you knew all this, you knew everything again, you knew to get to do all the steps and report back to all the meetings, and you knew to get a pavilion permit.
Yeah, everything was rented out.
See, we didn't know any of that, but you knew it because you were involved with the village, so this wasn't intentional, so I'm sorry if there was an oversight, but it wasn't at all intentional. And we have been busy behind the scenes, this isn't the last minute, so you misunderstand that, Steve. We have not done this intentionally. It's sloppy.
I'm not saying that you did this intentionally. All I'm saying is that I think in the future, I think what we need as a village, if someone wants to put on a benefit walk or whatever you want to call it, an event, you know, we gotta ask for some sort of outline of what it is you guys are
Right,
doing.
I agree.
Right,
It
and,
should
and,
have
and,
come
and like I
up
said, I know that once you start getting it and you start dealing with all these sponsors and these other groups that you have coming in representing their services, I understand that there's a lot of, you know, information that's flowing up into the point of that. But I think as the village, because you're looking for our approval to have this, that we need to have a vague, as accurate as that you can outline at the time. And knowing that, hey, there's gonna be some changes, but if you came to us 3 months ago and said, we're doing a walk, we think it's gonna be around here, we're gonna have speakers here, we're gonna start here, we're gonna end there, there's gonna be this, this, and this.
Just like
Will the
Patrick
board,
said.
approve? Right, will the board approve it?
greatly help.
Yes. But, you know, we didn't know up until just, you know, this last week when we got the email, what your outline was, what this all included, what was gonna happen. So I think that's why we were kind of like, okay, now we have to approve something and we have no
Right,
idea what they were doing.
I
So all
agree.
we're saying is that, like Patrick said, we need to have a process, but it would have been helpful months ago just to have a general outline of what you guys were gonna do. That's all.
Right, and sometimes it takes one person to change the world or change a situation or bring awareness to it, and I guess I'm the one that made the error. That's what happens in life sometimes, it's not intentional.
So, you all know I work a lot and I donate my time as much as I can. Liz has kept me abreast of everything all along the ways. And I've given her my input as much as I could and approvals to move on. I've seen the emails go out to the board members, and although apparently everybody wasn't in the loop, there was no, I don't recall any, you should come do this or do that, because I obviously would have pushed her or us to come in and do that. And so, as with everything we do, having a process, having a clear cut, this is what's gonna happen, is gonna be important to we go ahead and go forwards. As far as this year goes, I've had Liz tone it down a lot to just really the basics of putting something like this on, of getting the sponsor or getting the people to come in and just do something simple. The Lions doing something simple and getting the walk to happen with the police department's blessing and help, and not costing the village anything. This is a business association event. The business association will pay for it. That's how we want it to be. And I think, you know, that's going to be important going forward, because as far as I'm concerned, the businesses in Landon want to help everybody. And you know, how people contribute their time or whether they do it or not, you know, we'll find the help. But I think it's important that we try, that we do something basic that's just kind of paves the ground, paves the walks for next year, where we can start to, you know, have this all in place. But we've been talking about this for a long time, but there's been so many unexpected things to have to chase after, unexpected permits, unexpected things that, and there's no, I gave Liz some names of people who put on these kinds of runs and things, and it's, you know, they've all been doing it for so long that it's just like, oh, you know, it's all, we know how to do all this, but nobody wants to really tell you how to do it in your community, because what we have to do here is not what they do in the fall. That kind of thing. I think you're understanding that we can have as many people up here as involved, as many emails going through, as many, people reviewing what's going on, but unless somebody says, are we doing it the right way? And someone else says, well, maybe we're not. Where do you go? I mean, so we'll learn from this.
We won't know either way unless you present it to us. That's all we're saying. From now on, whatever the LBA does, same with the Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, now the walk, present it to us. You talk about information and everybody getting together and deciding what's good and what's bad. We can't do that without knowledge. That's all we're asking.
If you provide the format like Patrick, it would be so simple. Follow the rules and work together.
So this, we're breaking our teeth on this, but that's fine.
And I
So
just,
are we.
can I say too, that the police chief and we've been in touch for a long time. back and forth, back and forth. I knew that you said I need a final approval. So that we have been trying to get, do it in the right way that's safe for the community and affordable. A lot of these runs, you have to pay $50 to register to be in these run walks, and we're really making it free just to start. And we've been wanting to do this for probably 10 years, so it's been a thought for a long time. But thank you.
Ron, what kind of time frame do you think would be appropriate to come to the board on something like this?
6 months in advance.
That'd be doable. No problem.
Just a basic knowledge, date, possible date, time, what you want to do and where you want to do it. And then keep us updated. Monthly, even if it's a letter, send it to Brenda, send it to Don. This is what the LBA is going to do to keep us aware.
So, this comes to mind, okay, so the Halloween trick or treat party, it's always been the Lions Club, the Land Business Association, that's 3 months away now. No one, including the Lions Club, as far as I know, knew to do any of this forms or go to meetings or. Exactly, I'm thinking the Christmas parties in jeopardy now because it's not 6 months away, so. And that was always a community event of other groups coming together and working together, and I think we do an awesome job, especially the tree lighting.
I think unless there's changes or a new event, the reoccurring Christmas party, Halloween thing, come to, if it's October 31st, come that September board meeting, so we can get into the newspapers in October.
Right.
But for something new, or if there's a big change happening, then get further our approval.
Right, and if you clarified all that, whenever anything's at the village hall, if, again, Patrick's idea, would there be something for continuing programs would be a different time frame and format? Okay,
I don't think the Christmas party or anything like that is in jeopardy.
I think to Amy's point, the idea is that if something new is coming about, we should ideally have a long window of time to vet out any possible issues and details and stuff. And again, with help of maybe a form or an outline or a checklist, hopefully that'll simplify that process. By the time we get a couple months out, we should have a pretty good idea what's going to happen.
I think this was a very educational experience. I know for myself, I didn't get involved in this until I think the very end of April, beginning of May sometime, and it's trying to figure out what hoops you have to jump through with what information, and there's no guidelines, so everybody's just kind of checking in as far as what's going on. And this was an event, unlike the Easter Bunny, not to have fun for the kids, which I think is a great thing. But the Lions Club has lost 2 members who have taken their own lives. I personally know of 4 families that have lost adult children in the last few years. And this, I think, is something that the community needs to do, and we're trying to do it.
We're
with-
trying, in a way, we're trying to help, I think, more of our community from being lost to some of these things that even, I'll put it out there, I lost my own child, okay, to something that I was not even aware of. And I don't want other parents to have to go through what I have been through, because I had no knowledge of any of this. So that is something that, this is something that's deep in my heart, obviously. And I just don't want to see any more of our community go through what we've been through.
No one's disagreeing with the intent.
I'm-
What we're disagreeing with is the process that it was handled by. That's all. The
And I
intent is
think-
honorable. The intent is great. The intent is not what is intended to be worked on here.
As one of the
That's how you do
families who is a family member of one of the Lions that has passed away, this event was created around pretty much 2 gentlemen in this community. And I don't find it very respectful of the family's wishes in the whole thing.
I wanted to say too, we are not bringing up anybody's name or anybody's story. The people that come to these events, it's their story, it's their speaking. We are not making a public board or any of that. I just want to make that super clear. At these events, they don't do that. We would never intend to do that.
I think we've hammered that horse to death, right?
Yes, more adults than you need to.
So do we, I mean, Hector, does something like this typically, what format would we grant some sort of approval or something like this, or do we simply move on?
Some communities have what they call public assembly permits. And that's for the gathering of people to demonstrate, to just walk in a large group, like a walk for sarcoma, walk that I participated in this weekend. But Lannon does not have such a requirement. On the other hand, the Lannon Police Department will be involved, and in order to make sure that there is a clear signal to the police department, I would recommend that the board pass a motion approving the occurrence of this event with the assistance of the police department.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Can I ask
Thank you, guys.
one question? Does anyone know what the pavilion rental fee would be?
It's 50.
I would just work that out, Brenda.
Oh, it's pretty minimal. Okay, I was just. Okay, super, thank you.
Thank you, Liz and Steve.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible action to approve pay application 3 for Lannon Estates well. Ben's comments here. Strand has reviewed and agreed on a pay application, and the board can act to approve in the amount shown.
I'll make a motion to approve pay application number 3 in the amount of $60,678.74.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 13, discussion and possible action to approve a resolution authorizing development agreement affirming prior authorizations and actions related to the issuance of a municipal revenue obligation for Stonewood Trail development. Again, Ben's comments, Hector's prepared to discuss this. Stonewood Trail was approved by the board August 2021. And developer is finally at a point where they want to sign and record the agreement. The MRO is referenced in the developer agreement, and the village's municipal finance advisor Ayler's had a law firm prepare the actual MRO document, which will be an exhibit and a final recorded version of the developer agreement. Both the clerk and president should sign as soon as possible after the action tonight.
I passed out to each of you an email that was sent by Ben Wood following a conversation, an extended conversation that he and I had on July 5th to the Sawal developers. And what we were doing was going through a punch list, if you will, of the remaining steps necessary in order to finalize and record the development agreement. As you can see from the bold print, there are a number of mechanical steps that have to be completed, such as the production by Sawal of the final exhibits necessary for the development agreement, the production by Sawal of a draft copy of the letter of credit for the project, production by Sawal of proof of insurance for the project. At the same time, you have received the resolution 2022-4, which essentially approves proceeding to the step of signing the documentation. This documentation was prepared by the law firm that previously had prepared the other MRO materials for the Rock Point development, not my firm. However, I have reviewed these materials. They appear to be in order, except that if you look at Schedule 1 of the MRO, which is on page A-4, the estimated potential MRO payments column has not been filled in. Basically, what is contemplated here is that over a period from 2023 through 2047, provided that there is a build out of this project and provided that there are taxes collected, there will be a division of those proceeds with 60% going to the developer and 40% coming to the village up to a particular agreed upon amount, which is listed on the very face of the Exhibit A or A-1, which is $2,700,000. So I would recommend that if you are inclined to approve a motion to approve the execution of all final documents, provided, number one, the payment schedule is completed, and number two, the details contained, or the outstanding details contained in the Ben Wood email dated July 5th be satisfied.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing development for Stonewood Trail as outlined by council.
Second. We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion?
Hector, do you want us to add further detail regarding the additional comments in Mr. Wood's letter, or is that?
I think the letter itself will be, if included in the minutes, will suffice as a checklist.
Okay.
And I'll provide a copy to Brenda.
Okay. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are you comfortable with this document?
Well, I didn't draft it, but
You
it
mentioned that, that's why I'm
appears to be in
asking.
order.
I'm asking your comfort level with this as
Yeah,
village attorney.
I think it is correctly drafted
Okay,
and makes it clear that the monies that are to be used to pay the MRO, which by the way is non-interest bearing, will not constitute an obligation of the village, which burdens the village's taxing power or constitutes a debt of the village, but instead it's a contingent disbursement to the developer out of new tax revenue that is anticipated to be generated by the construction in one phase of this particular development consisting of a number of condominiums. And there is a firm cutoff date such that if by that date, the full amount has not been paid out, there is no further obligation on the part of the village to issue any further payment once the date of October 1st, 2047
I see that.
occurs.
So this was, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Hector, that this was drafted by Hush Blackwell,
Yes.
who is also, and it was modeled after the other MROs that we've done in some of the other development agreements. And I just want to point out that in addition to what Hector has specified here, this is also a pay-go MRO. So nothing goes out until the developer has met his obligations and we have actually collected incremental tax revenues.
That's correct. In other words, the developer is expected under this arrangement to advance all necessary financing for the completion of the project. As the project is completed, it will be assessed and taxed. Once that revenue is collected, then there will be a sharing of some of those proceeds.
Oh, really?
I have a tree on my house, so.
When
There's a
bill?
storm warning till 8:00.
Yeah. this is until 8:15.
Power bill. Unauthorized last month.
Those were my only comments.
They always not happy.
I was-
I was thinking.
If the owl goes down, Brenda, do you need to record this with the hand recorder? Brenda?
I can just take. It's, is it?
Well, if it's a lap,
I only have one person on here.
if it's a laptop,
A video.
then that's not a laptop.
The power goes down.
We're still out of light. We're good. We're good.
Yeah, usually there's like a little light circle there.
Yeah, I see the light.
It's giving me
I've never noticed that face before. Thanks for
Yeah.
pointing that out. Yeah. I
So when you talk.
thought it was one of you.
Do we have any more discussion? We have a motion and second, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed, motion carried. Discussion and possible action on roof repair to storage garage.
got it here, and I'd like to have this tabled because we don't have money in the budget for it, and I'd like to stick it in the budget for next year.
And talked to Wendy, she said we could pull it out of the general fund at the meeting I had with Brenda.
I'm not particularly fond of doing that.
Okay,
I'd rather have it budgeted.
I think there's other things that need attention on that structure as well, right?
Yeah,
well, we got 4 leaks in the roof right now,
Okay,
and that roof's 40+ years old. And the siding on the east side is gonna have to be
Is-
repaired. That
are
won't
there
be
mission critical items in there that are getting damaged from these leaks?
I am not sure what's all in there, Patrick.
I was in there the other day and there's nothing critical in there at all. Got some things inventory, there are some decorations in there. The Lions Club has got a few cookers in there from the pancake breakfast and that sort of thing. But as far as anything that would stand to be of value and loss, no, my opinion.
Right, so that, you said that roof is 40 years old.
That building was built somewhere about 1980, and that's the original roof on it.
Maybe it would make more sense to just build a new, more durable municipal type garage out on that back area somewhere that could handle all of those storage things and for the police and for the Lions and all that.
And Department of Public Works is doing it.
Right. And then that would free up some space for possible renovations and repurposing of space out in that garage.
Yeah, we're getting kind of small in here and with things that the LBA wants to do and have room available, that might not be a bad idea.
So, I mean, it might be worth looking at, right? So instead of sinking a bunch more money into trying to, you know, polish that turd, pardon the expression,
Lipstick on a pig.
maybe it's time we consider upgrading the facility as a whole.
Do you think it'd be worth it, Ron, to try and find the leaks and temporarily patch them? If you do that,
Yeah,
it's probably gonna
We got
start.
4 small leaks. Someone can be in there tonight and watch the rain come in, but you know, we're not losing anything. If it's falling on the concrete,
Okay.
let it go. Let the door dry out, one or the other.
I make a motion to table item number 14 on the agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action for projects over $1 million to go to referendum. Brenda, did everybody get copies of Ben's comments that he sent to you? Ben's got quite a lengthy list. And I know Hector's dealt with this in Elm Grove, and there are another couple of municipalities that have just enacted something like this. And I think that's something that we need to discuss here. I've had quite a lengthy chat with Hector, and I asked for his opinion on this. As far as what would be the responsible thing to do.
Hands response.
Well, first of all, you need to understand that this is a policy decision. It's not something that can be answered from a legal perspective, except that the referendum has to follow certain protocol. In the state of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Supreme Court has
whereby citizens can petition the board for the enactment of an ordinance which can specify conditions and limitations with regards to the undertaking of public projects. And the petition has to be signed by a certain percentage of the voters that voted in the last election for governor. The petition has to be verified by the clerk that the people who have signed it are Lennon residents, that their addresses correspond to what's been written down. And then the board is presented with this petition and basically given the option of adopting the proposed ordinance. The one that gave rise to this process contemplated that if the community undertook a project that costs more than $1 million before, but this is a public project, the board had to go out and put it to a referendum. And a referendum can be held at the expense of the village, or it can be held in conjunction with the typical election points. For example, we're approaching the primary election in August, and then there's the final election. Those referendums require additional staff support, some additional costs, and the board itself cannot expend public money to promote one position or another. Typically, the individuals that are advancing the referendum use their own resources to promote the logic of their position. No one on the board is prohibited from publicly taking a stance and explaining the pros and cons of the approval of the referendum. I represent the village of Elm Grove, and we had a petition presented. There were some technical difficulties with the petition. The presenters of the petition agreed with the deficiencies that were pointed out. They resubmitted the petition. The board declined to take action to adopt it as its own. And the board further took the position that there were flaws in the way that the referendum question was posed. And so they did not take it to a referendum. Litigation ensued. A circuit judge in Waukesha County determined that there was a basis for the holding of a referendum. And so the board in that regard held the referendum. The referendum was passed. The margin was not great, but it did pass. And the board proceeded to adopt an ordinance to that effect. What are the pros and cons of it? Well, I have my own personal views, but I'll just give you what I think are the pros and cons. I think that Ben did a good job in outlining some of the practical difficulties associated with a referendum. For example, when there is a limit of any amount of money, and incidentally, in the Elm Grove situation, they fortunately have an extremely good credit rating. They are not
over leveraged debt wise. And the trustees, as a basis for turning down the referendum, took the position that action that they took precluded the need to have a referendum because they took the position that $1 million is too small an amount for a public project. And they felt that $5 million would be an appropriate amount if in fact the population was, the citizens were concerned that the board would run away and launch into a project that was ill-conceived. And the court never really addressed that particular issue as to whether the board can pass a counter proposal before the referendum question has to go to the voters. In any event, the practical situation that Elm Grove has encountered is that the word got out that there was a referendum. And as a result, the projects that they had planned, which were to take care of some dangerous intersections and put in pedestrian pathways, were pulled back because details associated with the formulation of the project were not in hand. You had to have engineering and design work. And then the question became, well, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is the overall project going to be $1 million with engineering costs being what they are and so forth? And then with the cost of the inflation, which is affecting everybody, they basically decided that if they went to a referendum, it would not be soon enough in order for the design work to be done, assuming it was approved, and to go out for bids, because the optimal time for a lot of public projects is during the winter. And basically, this is my expression, if you don't go out for bids in the winter, what you get are throwaway bids from contractors who will quote whatever, figuring if you're desperate, you may take that up. And in addition, a practical thing in communities like a village where you don't have aldermanic type districts, you each as trustees, as is the case in Elm Grove, represent the village as a whole. And there was a question raised as to whether people who lived on the east side of town would be worried enough about approving a referendum that had to do with the repair of some roads on the west side of town that they never used for their purposes. And so that was criticism of the referendum. Is it good? It's up to you. The final point that the trustees made, but did not persuade people, was that we have what they call a Republican form of government. And that is that whenever any important issue for the community comes up, the expectation is that the board will be grounded enough to get input from the community, but you've delegated the authority to the board to make decisions in the best interest of the community, instead of every time something controversial comes up, let's put it out for a vote. Because oftentimes people are extremely busy, they're working, and it's difficult to get up to speed on the intricacies of a particular issue. And so if you have a board, at least you have people that are serving 2-year terms. And by their
prior experience, are in a better informed position to react to a situation.
Stated.
Thank you, sir.
I think that what Ben put together, very well done. There's a lot of things to be considered when you're looking at this. And since I just got this today, I guess for me, this is open for discussion. But I'd like a little more time to review what Ben's concerns were and be able to address those thoroughly as he addressed them to begin with, at least. And see if this actually does make sense for us or not. I'm open to ideas.
Yeah, I feel kind of similar to you, Kevin. My initial response was, what for? Really, I mean, what would be the scenario here going forward that we would be, creating this situation for? And I guess that's still a good question, but, in principle, I think it gets very complicated. And as you read through what Ben has brought up in all the various scenarios and possibilities with, this would have to be a very well-defined, well-written out and clearly dictated policy.
Be codified, right? Would have to be something that would be codified if we all.
Yeah, it'd become an ordinance.
Yep.
So, I mean, it would take, I think, some significant effort from the legislative committee to try to address all the possible scenarios.
Right.
And I think, like you said, Kevin, I think Ben has done a very good job of bringing up quite a large number of those possible scenarios here.
Yeah.
They're all different.
Yeah.
Which, to me, again, I'll go back to my initial instinct, which is to shy away from something like this as a personal preference, but
I would agree with shying away from having these referendums for something like this. I feel that as a board, we are elected by the constituents to make those decisions, just like our senators and congressmen. They represent their constituents and they trust us to make the best decisions for the community. I also feel that, as Hector had mentioned about the example he gave with the pedestrian walkways, that in order to do something, by the time you wait for referendum, well, then you don't have enough information of the engineering costs and everything else that's got to go into it. You're just kind of throwing out information to people of, hey, here's something that we want to do, yet there's not enough information to give the people to really vote on. To say, yeah, we think that's a great idea, or no, I'm going to vote against it. I don't think that's a good, allocation of funds. So I'm kind of against or not for it, but that's just, my personal standing on it.
Like Ben points out, it is part of their custom-made project. After engineering fees and everything else, the time delay to get something done, all of a sudden, we're looking at more money. I don't think anybody wants to spend money, but they don't have to. And this would mean basically we don't have to spend more money. to do something like this. It's just, it's either throw out a figure of 1.5 million and hopefully you can get it in for 1.5 million, or wait until you get the exact figures and then make a decision. I'm against it.
I need more time to go over what Ben has said. I guess I see good and bad points, but I'm also coming off of a really bad couple of years here with what's happened, so I'd have to take a little bit more time to figure out how I feel about it.
I guess my position would be along the lines of Kevin, to be able to have some time. I got this when I walked in the door here today, and I had a couple conversations with Ben on this. And I had asked him to put together something like this, because none of us up here has ever dealt with something like this. And you can't make a fly-by-night decision on this, because it could be disastrous for the village. This was brought up, Kevin had mentioned it, him and I had talked about it. And I think it was something that needed to come to the board for discussion. I think that's what we're here for. I talked to Hector because Hector was through this in West Bend. I believe it is the town of Waukesha adopted this. There were 2 other communities, if I recall correctly, that adopted it, and a couple more that are talking about it. So I wanted to get it here for discussion.
More information from the legislature, from them, and from legal counsel. Until such time as you have that, just leave it set.
I'll second it.
Yes, Hector.
Procedure wise, the referendum can only be triggered by an outside group trying to instruct the board to take action. So they have to formulate the proposition, circulate the petition, and then submit it to you. Once enacted, it can't be repealed for a period of 2 years.
Do we, Hector, could you, if you don't mind, provide us with a list of the communities that have done something similar, a date that it was enacted? Just so if any of us want to maybe reach out to some of those trustees or aldermen or councilmen or whatever and see how this has gone for them, we would have that opportunity.
I would like to, but I don't have firsthand knowledge of that. I've heard that the then town and now village of Waukesha may have done something. I do know that the village of River Hills has a referendum petition pending. Elm Grove went through the referendum and it adopted. I do not know any other community. However, Trustee Kett has a very excellent document here. May I borrow it for a second? The Legislative Reference Bureau has put together this particular document, and perhaps this will be a very, very good way for you to educate yourselves about the process. And my impression seems to be that it's a tool that's utilized by citizen groups when they feel that they have stronger feelings about adopting a course of action than the elected board. And so it's a right of first refusal. They present it to the board. They say, look, we should do this. Board says no. We shouldn't say no just for the sake of saying no. But as was the case in Elm Grove, they said no because we think the amount is too low. And we have adopted an ordinance of $5 million, which is more realistic. And proof of our reliability is the fact that we have good fiscal management of the village. But the people who came out to vote apparently. That's the beauty of a democracy.
I'd like to recommend my motion to have Kevin supply everyone on the board with a copy of that.
The
before
PDF
we ever bring it.
electronically, okay?
I don't care if you give it to Brenda to print or PDF, just so long as you supply a copy.
You got it.
Could you print them for us, Brenda, if you want, please?
Then I'll re-amend my second motion.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor to table this?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action on payment of the bills.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills as presented by the clerk.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Engineers report from Ben. No further comments at this time. Attorneys report.
Likewise, no further comments at this time.
My report, we have a couple of issues we're working on with the residents. It's been kind of rough trying to put together some of this stuff to benefit our community. It's been a couple of big hurdles to try and cross. And anybody's got suggestions, anybody else wants to volunteer their time, I think it would be welcome. And it's trying to figure out how to move forward. So we're trying, there's some things going on that, like Liz said, this walk's been talked about for 10 years. I heard nothing about it till very late this spring. So it's, some people are trying to put some positive stuff together, and it's a steep learning. So I thank everybody for coming. We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
No, I've got it electronically.
Kathy, I'll get you that Lions. I didn't know you were gonna be here tonight. I'll get it to you.
I know where you
Let's all go see if we have electricity.
I don't know. I
Yeah, I know. I was like, I don't want to travel going like this.
Of course we don't have power. Good night, Don.
So, I talked to Ben.
Drives me nuts. I don't know what it is. It's like there's a kid that has a bad knee. I used to wait for my
I can't wait to come home and have it all gone. You could just chuck some rocks at the end of the driveway and I'll be happy. Better than that, whatever that stuff was.